Pregnant woman was stopped by a barking canine, what police discovered at checkpoint. The morning rush pressed toward the river bridge in a tight river of brake lights. At the temporary checkpoint, officers waved cars through in slow, practiced arcs, while a sable-coated K9, named Atlas, worked the line with his handler, Officer Mara King. Atlas was a pro, steady nose, quiet feet, no drama unless the scent told him otherwise. A silver sedan rolled up. The driver's window slid down, and a woman leaned out, one hand on the wheel, the other resting unconsciously across her belly. "Good morning," Mara said. "License, please." The woman nodded. "Amara Okoye," she said, voice careful. She was maybe 8 months along, the kind of late pregnancy fullness that makes strangers smile and doors open a beat sooner. Atlas circled once, drawing in the morning. Rubber, coffee, 1,000 ordinary details, then stopped hard at the driver's door. The hair along his shoulders rose. He gave one sharp bark, then another, not the staccato he used for contraband, not the deep warning for explosives. This was a sound Mara knew from training but hardly ever heard in the field. Change of behavior. The dog sat and leaned, pressing his shoulder against the door, then stood to paw gently at the panel, whining low. Mara's hand tightened on the leash. "Mom, can you put the car in park?" Amara blinked, surprised. Is something wrong?" Atlas looked up at Mara and then back at the woman, fixated, not on the trunk, not the floorboard, on her. He pressed his nose toward the open window and inhaled, then poured the air and whined again. A soft plea. "Step out for me, please," Mara said, voice kind but firm. Slowly. Another officer, Torres, moved into the blind spot on the passenger side. The air at the checkpoint changed temperature the way it does when the weather turns before you see clouds. Amara eased the door open, one hand still across her belly, like a promise she didn't want to break. "I'm late for my prenatal," she said, trying to smile. "I can show you the appointment text." "You will?" Mara said gently. "But first, I'm going to ask you a few questions." "Headache today?" A flicker of surprise crossed Amara's face. "A little." "Since last night, any blurry vision, flashes? Tightness here?" Mara touched the space just below her ribs. Amara's smile faltered. "Light, sparkles, like little stars. I thought I was just dehydrated. My feet are..." Swollen Atlas had settled at Amara's knees, not guarding, anchoring, the way he did when cadets pretended to faint in the training bay. He glanced at Mara, gave one short huff, then looked back up at Amara's face as if counting her breaths. Torres raised an eyebrow. "You think..." "Maybe," Mara said. She didn't say the word yet. She lifted her radio. "Can I get EMS to checkpoint 3, pregnant female, possible hypertensive emergency?" Amara tried to wave it off. No, I'm fine." "Please, I just need to get to the clinic." "You will," Mara said. "But the clinic is coming to you." They guided her to a folding chair beneath the awning. Atlas parked himself at her shins, calm and immovable. Up close, the small tail stacked up the sheen of sweat at her hairline. Though the morning was cool, the way her wedding band wouldn't clear the knuckle, the careful way she adjusted her breathing like each inhale needed instructions. The paramedics arrived with the soft urgency of people who don't waste adrenaline. A cuff slipped around Amara's arm, Velcro whispering. Numbers blinked to life. 190/120, the medic read, voice flat to keep it from sounding like a shout. "Mom, you're not driving anywhere." The word finally got said. Preeclampsia. The kind of blood pressure that turns minutes into decisions. Amara swallowed. "I didn't know. I thought it was just pregnancy stuff." Mara knelt so they were eye level. "You did the right thing by stopping." Atlas told us Amara looked down at the dog, at the dark, earnest eyes, and the stillness that felt like a blanket over panic. He knew. "Not like a doctor," Mara said, "but he knows when something is wrong." He's trained to alert to certain scents, stress chemistries, changes in breath. He's picked it up with diabetic alerts during drills. He's never done it on a stop. She smiled, a quick, crooked thing. He's showing off. The medics started a line, gave meds that felt like a seatbelt for a runaway car. The monitor's beeps softened by one small degree. The ambulance doors opened like a promise. "Who can we call?" Torres asked, already pulling out his notepad. "My husband, Cheek," Amara said, spelling the name. "He's at work. Tell him the dog saved us." Mara clipped Atlas's leash to her belt and jogged to her cruiser. Lights up, siren down. She slid in behind the ambulance, escort lights parting traffic like gentle hands. On the radio, the hospital readied an OB team. Words like magnesium and labs and monitor snapped across the air, a language of fast kindness. In triage, Atlas sat in the hallway, a picture of patience with a badge on his collar. Nurses stepped around him with practiced ease. Every time a door opened, he lifted his head and waited for Mara's nod to stay. He did. They wouldn't let Atlas back, of course, but protocol bends a tiny bit for heroes. Someone brought out a white blanket that smelled like antiseptic and sunshine. Atlas put his head on his paws and watched the line of light under the door. It didn't take hours. It took the right team moving in the right order. They stabilized Amara's pressure, ran labs that spelled out the risk in numbers, and made the call. Now. The delivery wasn't the gentle plan in her pregnancy app. It was the necessary kind, the kind you don't post photos of until the baby is already crying. Chaik arrived breathless, security badge crooked, eyes wide, with the fear he didn't let into his voice. Mara met him halfway, explained too fast, then slowed down and said the part that mattered. "She's in good hands. Your baby is almost here." He stared at Atlas. This is Atlas," Mara said. "He's the reason we're not telling this story a different way." Cheeky sank to a crouch and put his palm on the dog's neck the way grateful people do, like a prayer you can touch. At 11:42 a.m., a nurse opened the door and smiled the kind of smile that lives in hospital hallways. "Dad?" she said. The cry came first, thin and elastic and perfect. An hour later, when it was safe, they wheeled Amara to recovery. She was tired in the bones, but color had returned to her cheeks. A tiny bundle slept on her chest, a knitted cap too big for a head that would grow into it. "We're naming him Atlas," she said, voice cracking around the laugh. "If that's allowed." Mara grinned. "He'll share." The hospital printed 2 bands, mother and child, and a third, unofficial one, slid over a collar. The nurses insisted on a photo: baby Atlas, Amara, Cheek, Officer King, and a K9 who sat as if he understood his part in the frame. Back at the bridge, the checkpoint kept moving, as the world does. Cars, coffee, people late for things that matter and things that don't. But word traveled like it always does, faster than traffic. Drivers leaned out windows to toss "God bless" and "Good boy" and tell him thank you, as if a dog could bank blessings for later. A week later, Amara returned with a stroller and a thank you card written in a hand that wobbled where sleep should have steadied it. Atlas pressed his nose to the blanket and exhaled a long, satisfied breath. He didn't bark. He didn't need to. His work here was visible and sleeping. Before they left, Cheek slipped a note to Mara. "Sometimes the thing that saves you is the one that slows you down. Sometimes kindness is a checkpoint that becomes a detour to the right room. Sometimes it's a dog that doesn't have the word for danger, but finds it anyway. Sometimes the twist isn't a mystery at all. It's a life that goes on under a small blue cap because someone listened when a good dog insisted." If this story moved you, like and share it. Subscribe to Next Kindness for the next tale where what happens after the scare is grace.